So that's how I went into competing, and I got hooked on it. At first, after that experience in 2009, I thought, oh, wow, I'm really good. I'm going to be the next world champion of public speaking. But it went to my head a little too much. My head expanded, and I forgot that I needed a reminder, or I needed someone to tell me that nobody cares if you win the trophy or not. What they care about is if you've got something important or meaningful to share with them.
Hi, Alexandre.
Bonjour, hello.
Welcome. I'm so happy that you accepted to participate on the Break Time with Patty show. Dear friend, I had the privilege to meet Alexandre Matt while he was on the stage, on the virtual stage, during the World Championship of Public Speaking in Nashville, Tennessee. He shared two powerful messages that inspired me so much that I thought I have to invite him on my show, even before knowing he was going to win. And here we are having this conversation. Without delay, who is he? Number one, Alexandre is a master communicator. He is one of those rare storytellers that can transport you to the time and the place he is describing. Multiple times decorated at the International Speech Contest, Alexandre finished second place in the World Championship in public speaking this year out of 30,000 contestants. He's also a recipient of the Storytellers of Canada Emerging Storyteller Awards in 2018. Number two, Alexandre is a coach and a professional speaker. He offers coaching to speakers, particularly for speech contests, but also to politicians and other professionals. He is in demand for emceeing events and training to local organizations, and you may see him occasionally as an actor on stage or television. After 15 years managing finances of cultural organizations, most recently as Director of Finance of the oldest cultural center in French Ontario, he transitioned from counting to speaking. Specializing in storytelling for young audiences, Alexandre visits elementary schools all over Canada to help children discover the art of storytelling. And finally, most importantly, number three, he is a father. At home, he practices the art of storytelling with his most difficult audience, his three daughters, aged 2 to 10. Whew, all right, I've talked enough. Alexandre, can you share with us how it was like to be in your shoes as a little boy? Please.
Well, I was a very shy child, and it took me, until it took me becoming an adult and being exposed to certain situations to get over that shyness. Although get over is quite strong, because I still have that tendency. You know, as a kid, I would often be in a corner, difficulty making friends. Now I don't stay in the corner, but I'm not the type of person who will spontaneously go to someone and present myself. So it's a challenge when we are shy. But one thing that absolutely did help me to get out of that comfort zone was different experiences. One experience would be the being on stage, on theater. I participated in in some plays when I was in grade school, and I was okay with that because I wasn't myself. I was playing someone else, so it's easier to be in front of people when you're someone else. We might get back to that. But later on in life, I was able to present myself to other people, and it's largely thanks to my colleagues in my local Toastmasters club in Voix du Nord, who helped me be more comfortable in various positions or situations. So while I was young, very, very shy, not able to meet other people, but I tried to while I'm still a little bit of that child, I try to go over that that shyness.
Yes. And how many siblings did you have?
I have one sister, 3 years older.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Oh, yeah. And she was the one, I guess, who, I've heard you mention that she was one who was encouraging you to speak up when you were a shy little boy, right?
Yeah, she's the one who first introduced me to theater in our parents' salon.
Mm-hmm.
She would tell me what to do, and I would follow her instructions.
Mm-hmm.
I was that kind of kid. Okay, yeah, and I will do whatever.
Yes.
Ici, fais-le celui.
Épaule, ok, maintenant fais-le tout seul, ok?
Okay. So now by the time you got to adulthood, when did you, or what was the turning point that made you go visit a Toastmasters club for the first time then?
Well, the turning point. The first visit was because I had nothing to do. I was in a new city. I had no friends and no family there. And I received an email, a publicity saying, come join our Toastmasters club tonight. And it was right beside, which was good because I had no means of transport. I didn't have a car, so I was able to just walk over there and see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I first visited. But what encouraged me to stay were the individuals who showed me what they had learned by being a member. The president, Michel, he was also the president of the meeting, and he was commanding the right to speak, but also commanding silence. And I thought that's really cool. That would be a nice skill to have. And one after the other, they were showing me different things that they had learned or that they were teaching to their other members. So it took me a few meetings, but I finally decided. I thought, okay, yeah, this might be some work, some time that I need to invest, but if I want to improve my comment dirais, if I want to improve my perspective or prospects in life and professionally, these skills are important to have.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in all areas of life, absolutely. And that's why I joined Toastmasters, because I really had no confidence and I stuttered. And anyway, I wanted to be able to command the stage as Michelle did. So definitely, and as you do now. So you used to be a finance director for 15 years and you're not anymore. Can you share with us how you transitioned from counting to speaking, please?
Yeah, I worked a long time for the Carrefour Francophone de Sudbury, and I was in charge of the budgets and grant writing and numbers reports. But at the same time, I was with Toastmasters and learning to appreciate the power of public speaking and how well I was enjoying it, right? Just enjoying it being in front of people, which was new to me. So I had this longing of having more contact with people rather than being in front of a screen with numbers. And the way that it was set up was I had two big screens with Excel sheets on both sides looking at numbers all day long, but I could imagine what was on the other side. It's like in the movie The Matrix, the character Cypher, he says, "Oh, the green numbers are coming down. I don't see the code anymore. All I see is blonde, brunette, redhead." For me, I was also seeing not blondes and brunettes, but the quality of childcare that we were offering to children in the community, the number of satisfied customers who came to our musical shows every month, and that was beyond the numbers. But I was longing to go on the other side, and whenever I had those experiences, like when my boss, for example, asked if he would ask me to go represent the organization at a meeting or at a presentation, I was happy to do it. But still something was missing, so I could have more of that. It's when I had my children that I did that transition, because they were, well, they every night when I put them to bed, I would sing a song to them. And one day I was working on a speech for the next day, and I said, "Would you like to hear a story?" And I told them a story, and they liked it so much the next day they asked, "Papa, don't sing, can you tell us a story?"
Oh.
I have not been singing to them since then. So I've been telling them stories almost every day. Most of the time just inventing things, but sometimes I would go like a full week of every night just sharing something about my own youth, and some with things that I've learned throughout on the way.
Yes.
And I think that's important. It's, we say we transport the children to another world, but it's also to impart them a lesson without telling them this is what you should do. It's like, well, in that story, what did you think about what I did? What did I learn, right? And then they can get that lesson more subtly.
Yes.
I'm not telling them what to do. I'm asking them to reflect on what they've just heard.
Yes.
And because I had that, I was doing that with my kids. I thought maybe their friends in their classroom would like it. So I went into their classroom. I did that. It was a magical moment, speaking with those kids and seeing their eyes light up when I brought them to a magical world full of elephants with various sizes and shapes of trunks. And that's when I thought, well, there's a big potential here. Because I knew I wanted to speak in front of people, but speaking in front of children, that was the magic moment that I needed to see, well, there might be a career in this. And it's it was a coincidence that I was at some place at the right time, and the Centre Franco-Ontarien de Folklore from Sudbury, Ontario was there, witnessed one of my stories that I told, and I was awarded the Emerging Storytellers prize from Storytellers of Canada. So I shortly after that, I transitioned to become full-time storyteller for young audiences, and it's absolutely great. I go in different schools, and not only do I share with them sometimes some lessons that come from these characters, but they are able to improve their vocabulary, their imagination, and I think it's a great skill to have, to be able to tell stories, or even just being able to get in front of people and share a story. So that's what I do with them. And if I'm able to initiate them at a younger age than what I was, then I think they'll be better off in the future.
Yes, they will. And it's so true, the power of stories with children. I was just babysitting my 4 nieces just last week. My brother was on vacation, and I realized I managed to get them to eat. I won't get into the story, is your interview, not mine. But I got them to eat their vegetable by making a link with how they would feel if I would receive drawing from them, and I started just mashing it up and putting it in the garbage, because they kept wasting my, our food. So,
Right.
And it worked. They started eating the food because they would, if you saw the look on their face when they realized, oh, that's how you feel when I don't eat your food. Yes.
Oh, c'est bon ça. I'll try that.
Try with your daughters if that happens. Speaking of stories, you shared 2 speeches this year, Lift Up and Missing Ingredient. Dear friend, do yourself a favor. I would like to encourage you to go watch them. The links are in the description below. So Alexandre, you made it to the podium with these messages, and just wanted to highlight the fact that anyway, you shared those messages in a second language, in English, which was extremely impressive. What made you decide to start competing, please?
And by the way, the world champion and the third place winner also were not speaking in their first language.
Oh, interesting.
Why did I wait? Why did I compete? Because a fellow member, Sue, told me that it was the best way for me to improve on my speaking skills, rather than taking one speech, delivering it, then putting it aside and forgetting it for forever. Well, take one speech and try to make that one as effective as it can be. And because that first time I participated, I went up to the district, improving my speech every time. District is what, the fourth step of the contest. Like, well, that's pretty good for a first time. Through that journey, I was able to meet other people who had been on that stage before. I met Craig Valentine in 2009 at our district conference, and he gave me some last-minute advice and coaching for that speech, which it was just a slight change of the ending, but it made all the difference, because instead of handing off the control to the chair, I just walked off stage. I wish I had the recording, because I don't think I was particularly good when I compared to what I'm able to do now, but for what I was able to do then, it was great. So that's how I went into competing, and I got hooked on it. At first, after that experience in 2009, I thought, oh wow, I'm really good. I'm gonna be the next world champion of public speaking. But it went to my head a little too much. My head expanded, and I forgot that I needed a reminder, or I needed someone to tell me that nobody cares if you win the trophy or not. What they care about is if you've got something important or meaningful to share with them. So when I met Mark Hunter, I think the year after, I understood that from him, and he became my speaking coach in 2012 when I tried again. And he helped me go to the world semi-final, and last year to the final. Because every time, it's a competition, right? So there are judges, and there's a ballot with numbers that you count. I've counted numbers for a long time, but I have stopped looking at the judge's guide and ballot, because it doesn't serve the audience directly. So when I was competing, I always thought, what can I do to be of service to the audience and to my message? Because sometimes it does not always go hand in hand. Sometimes you've got something to share with your audience that they don't want to hear, or they need to hear. So what can I do to have that come across? And the contests were a great way of learning how to influence other people. So now if someone asks me help on a presentation for their work, for example, I can help them, because I've had that experience, and I know what it takes to tap into the hearts and minds of the audience, to make them change their opinion, or at least to receive some information.
Yes. Oh, you're full of good tips, Alexandre. Would you be willing to share your three best tips to become a phenomenal and memorable speaker, please?
Well, the first one, I think I learned in a bizarre way. It's, in Toastmasters clubs, one of the first things that we learn is to stop looking at the notes. And it took me a while to understand why. If you're looking at your notes, you're setting a barrier between yourself and your audience. when you have a conversation with a friend or a colleague or family member, do you have notes with you? These are the subjects I want to talk about. Maybe sometimes you need those, but most of the time, if you're having a real human interaction, there are no notes. That's why it's a good idea to let go of the notes and just speak naturally. So the first tip that I can give you is just to be yourself, to be sincere, so that you have a real connection with whoever you're talking to. Another one would be, if you want to be memorable, if you want your speech to be memorable, it should be connected personally. I recently watched a contest at the area level, so like the second level, and a lot of speeches were like global, not really going into specifics. There was one who gave like 3 tips on how to be in better health, but she didn't say how it impacted her. Well, okay, did you live those tips yourself? Are you living your own message? It was well written, it was well delivered, but it did not, I don't think it made an impact, a lasting impact on the audience. Whereas the one who got the trophy, who going on to the next step, he shared personal stories about an experience when he was a teenager in his first job, but he had this fear. And how did he get through the fear? Well, his father was there to guide him. And later on in life, he shares another personal story about building a house and how he was able to go through it because of the lesson that he had. When you share your own personal experiences, your own personal stories, it helps the audience to first be connected to you because it's personal, but then we understand concretely why we should try what you are proposing us to try. So telling personal stories, that would be my second tip. And the third one is that you shouldn't try to do this alone. This is true for a speech contest, but it's true also for any presentation that you have that you want to be memorable. If you're preparing something for your own personal life, maybe a toast that you want to give to at a wedding, or if you have something that you're preparing for your work or for a local organization like a charity, for example, you want to have a maximum impact and you want your message and your story to be memorable. Don't try to do it alone. I didn't make it to the final stage by staying in my room and writing and rehearsing in front of a mirror. I had countless people who were there to help me and guide me. First of all, Mark Hunter, the 2009 world champion of public speaking, he was my mentor, my guide, my coach, and became my friend as well. And he was able to help me understand what sort of work I needed to do to improve on my speech. He never told me what to do. He just gave me ideas, and we had exchanges and powerful conversations about what I could do. My sister is an author, and she helped me with some passages and so the structure of my speech. Countless other people gave me feedback, and were able to help me as well. So if you have a presentation that you want to be memorable, find a guide that can help you, but surround yourself with people who can help you test out your material before you go on that big stage, whatever that big stage is.
Wonderful tips. Thank you. Duly noted. You have recently launched your podcast, Great Convos, with Roger Caesar. And he's the top 3 best speaker in the world in 2021. What motivated you to start that podcast adventure, and what will be your primary mission?
Well, a podcast is like being on the radio, right? And I do remember being younger, having that desire to speak in a microphone. Mm-hmm. And even when I was shy and not willing to go in front of people, I think I had this attraction towards the microphone where you don't see the face.
Mm.
And now what we do is we're on video.
Mhm.
But being able to do something with Roger is absolutely great. We met in, well, we knew each other for a long time, but we had a coffee together in Toronto when I was there a few months ago, and we just exchanged on what our projects are for the future. And Roger had already mentioned, well, I think I'd like to do something with you. And we have two different styles, and it's true. If you know Roger and me, it's like Roger's. You can even see it in his performances at the World Championship. He's all flamboyant, full of energy, and I tend to be more calm, more cerebral. So we thought it might be really cool just to have these conversations, just as we were having in the coffee shop, but to share it with the world. Because sometimes and you will have that too, Patty. You're speaking with a friend, and you realize, oh yeah, I'm going to write that down. That's interesting. Well, maybe other people would benefit from you and not just your clipboard. So that's what we strive to do. We want to have great conversations and share moments with our audiences. Eventually we will have guests, and hopefully we will have subjects that might be a little touchy. Maybe we'll talk about politics and see what disagreements we have.
Yes.
Because I think we can have great conversations, not in spite of our differences or disagreements, but because of them. As I shared in my semi-final speech, great conversations come from great disagreements. And that's one of the ideas behind our podcast.
Absolutely. Yes, actually, I watched that the first episode of the podcast. It was great. I love Roger too. I interviewed him as well. Fantastic guy. So the two of you together is just perfect combination of all the fun stuff put together and knowledge and wisdom. I'd like to ask you, since because of your message, it's making me, I'd love to hear what you have to say. If our friend has a hard time communicating with a loved one right now, or a colleague or a boss, and they just don't see a way out of this, they're just like, they have a huge wall between the two, and they just think that this is just not surmountable, what would you like to tell them, please?
Well, I think someone needs to take the first step. I don't think you can fix a conflict by ignoring it. Unfortunately, it would be much easier if we could fix all problems by just ignoring them. But no, problems tend to get bigger and bigger if you don't address them. So that might be the first thing to realize. And then if it's like a contrary opinions, and man, we've seen this so much during the pandemic, and because of the lockdowns, families being ripped apart because two people in the family don't agree on something, and they never realized that they would have this disagreement because they were never exposed to such a situation. I've never seen such a situation in my life where everything just closes down, and then we are obligated to wear masks and get the vaccine. I mean, I can understand why some people would be hesitant to being told what to do. And I think that's part of what inspired me for my speech. I was seeing all these the déchirure, ripped apart of friendships and families. So if that has happened, maybe during the pandemic or because of another disagreement, it might be time to reach out to that person and just listen to them, understand. I've spoken to people from both sides of that debate, like the extremes, and wondering what made you go to Ottawa with the truckers debate, truckers convoy. What did you think? What were you thinking? What are your, and the answers that I get are completely different from what we hear publicly. It's much more personal. Sometimes when we have a disagreement with somebody, it's important to ask them their opinion and to share fully. I spoke of being sincere, right? And I think that's what we need to do in order to at least mend a relationship, or at least get the hate out of the way. If you can truly understand someone's point of view, then it might be your turn to share yours. I had a conversation with an aunt at a family gathering. I knew about her opinions, and I knew that we didn't agree, but I made it a point to go reach out to her because I wanted to see if we could understand each other. And at first, she did most of the talking, and I did most of the listening. And I remember, like some people in the family gathering saying, "Oh, you can come with me if you want," because they were like trying to save me from this awkward conversation. But I said, no, I'm not finished here. I need to listen. And when she was finished talking, and she said some things that I find completely appalling, but I let her know, just sincerely, no, these things, I don't think you agree. And I was able to share my opinion as well. Well, by the end of the family gathering, she took me aside and she said, "Alexandre, thank you for listening to me. You made me think about some things." And I said, "Well, thank you, and you too." And that experience, I think, is all we need to know to realize that we don't need to agree on everything, and we don't need to always want to invite our family over, or we don't need to force anything. But maybe if we can have these exchanges a little more often, maybe our family life and our family relations can be more positive. And if we start with these personal relationships, and we can have this sort of have more cohesion within ourselves, with each other at a personal level, maybe we can show the example for the society, and do this in a more global scale. You can start with just one conversation, and you never know what it can lead to.
Yes. And I suspect it would make the world a better place, actually, Alexandre. If this could be...
We can listen to each other more and understand each other, absolutely.
Yes. Oh, so what is the next step for Alexandre Matt? Like what legacy would you like to leave to the world, please?
Well, I think what I've just mentioned is something of great importance for me. I see these debates where you see it especially online, but in the media it is perpetuated, where the voices that are stronger or louder are on the extremes. But I think a lot of us, like maybe a vast majority, are not near the extremes. We're somewhere in the middle. Sometimes we agree with these people, sometimes we agree with these people. So how about we expand or give more voice to these people in the middle? It won't attract more clicks, and that's the problem. That's why it's not popular. But maybe those of us who consider ourselves in the middle, maybe we can expand or share our own voice more often to more people on more platforms.
Yes, absolutely. I'm with you. Give the microphone to people who represent more of the world, less the extremes. Definitely. What is the best way to reach out to you, to get to know you better, or to communicate with you for your coaching or speaking services, please?
Well, I'm a lot on Facebook, so you can find me there. But the easiest way to get a message to me, especially if you want to know about my services, my coaching services, or if you want a workshop, for example, go to my website, Alexandre Matt. Am I doing it the right way? Yeah, alexandrematt.com. We can write it in the show notes, right? You can click on it directly, and that'll give you information on what I offer, and as well as a form to get in touch with me directly. That's the safest way, because sometimes if you reach me in another way, I might let it slide.
Yes, perfect. Oh, God, I had such a good time. Let me share quickly my main takeaways. If you were not taking notes, I was. The 3 tips that he had to become a more memorable speaker: be sincere. Don't stick to your notes or to your text. Number 2, share a personal story. maybe about your fears, your struggle, your successes. That'll be the best way to connect to your audience. And number three, do not do this alone. Get help from somebody who's been there before and who could save you a whole lot of time. And if ever you're having a disagreement with somebody, something has to give. So you may want to consider taking the first step, ask their opinion, try to listen to them, understand their point of view. Oh, I loved when Alexandre said, get the hate out of the way. And you may just want to do more listening and less of the talking. And you don't have to agree on everything. Sometimes some of the great conversations can come out from greatest disagreements. And is there a last story you'd like to share before you leave today, Alexandre?
Well, Patty, this is great. What you are doing and taking some wisdom from different people in different walks of life and sharing it. It's great. I hope that I wish you that any positive messages that you have or positive information that you have can be, how do you say that, broadcast throughout the world. So you are doing your part in sharing positivity with the world, and I hope that more people can do what you are doing.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Well, you're doing it plenty with everything that you do, but I really appreciate that coming from you. It's really warms my heart. Thank you. And what a pleasure. My goodness. I cannot wait to re-edit this and rewatch this. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. And dear friend, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this time with Alexandre, just 1/10 as much as I did, and your life has been changed. And we will leave you with this. The power of your voice can change the world. Find it and use it. See you in the next video. Bye.
Bye-bye. Au revoir.